Well, you know, I was born and raised out in the middle of the Bering Sea on one of a group of 5 islands. The group is called the Pribilof Islands. The island that I grew up on, which was the largest island, is called St. Paul Island. And when I grew up, we had about 450 people in the island. It was only 12 miles long and 5 miles wide. And when I was a child, I think we had about 1.8 northern fur seals, all congregated around the shoreline of the island, and 2.5 million seabirds, and 1,000 reindeer, and 500 Aleut people. That's the island I grew up on. So I would wake up in the morning listening to the seals, and during the day we'd probably smell them because they're just, you know, thick around the island, and go to bed at night listening to the sound of the birds. And my generation, and so my people have been out there for 10,000 years, but we say, of course, like everybody else, since time immemorial. Our people have been out there probably far longer than 10,000, because a lot of the areas that we used to occupy are now submerged underwater. And we have stories about how our people, you know, came across and migrated from Egypt all the way through Mongolia, up through Siberia, and then across on boats. And of course, the anthropologists, you know, say that we came across the Bering Land Bridge, but they never thought to ask us what are our origin stories. And so 10,000 years is like 6,000 years before the height of the pyramid cultures. And we're a highly evolved spiritual culture. And we had the most densely occupied linear mile of shoreline than any place in North America. That shows how sophisticated our culture was to be able to support that density along the shorelines in Alaska, in a place that is very difficult to eke out a living, you know. But our people were such masters of the ocean, and so profoundly spiritual, beyond. And I think at that time probably most groups in the world were that spiritual, and we're lucky that we've had a lot of the information passed along from generation to generation in terms of what that spirituality was all about. And it was basically profound connection with all of creation, because this is central to how we know things, and it characterizes more of our profound connection with all of creation. When we talk about the womb in the center of the universe, there's a real physical world purpose for that too, and it's also very spiritual. I mean, our elders say you need 2 wings to fly, one for physical, one for spiritual. You got to have both. You can't fly without one or the other. We are given our physical for a purpose, and we're given the spiritual. So one day I was 16 years old, and I was kind of, you know, lamenting the fact that our people have lost our ways to be able to create these incredibly powerful spiritual masks, right? I would see them in the Smithsonian and in Europe, in the Louvre, in France, and we have all these books, pictures of these Aleut masks, Unangan masks, and I was lamenting about, you know, this way is gone. We don't see anybody making these kind of masks. I don't know how to make these kind of masks. So I decided I'm going to go to the oldest man in the village on St. Paul Island, 88 years old, Aggie, Pokoinik, we call him Pokoinik Aggie, because his grandfather was the last shaman on St. Paul. So I went to him and I was telling about how we've lost this way, and he says, no, it's not been lost, you know. I'm paraphrasing, but what he said was, go out to the ocean, next to the ocean, on the beach, clear your mind, center yourself, set your intention, and wait. Okay, now that sounds pretty simple on the surface, but spiritually what that means, and I knew intuitively at that time what it meant, Okay, clear your mind means no words. Your mind is quiet, okay? And center yourself is literally the centering within my own being, which is being present here, now, in this moment, okay? And set your intention and wait. On the surface seems pretty simple, but what it really means is, can you trust and have faith and know that the answer will come with every cell of your body? Not your mind, because the mind is quiet. Can your whole being trust to the degree that the answer will come? Not one shred of doubt. This is what they mean by faith can move mountains. It's not a faith that anybody understands, because we don't have role models for it anymore. How do you embody faith? How do I trust implicitly with no shred of doubt in my body? So I'm sitting there and doing what he instructs. And I wait, and within a couple of hours in that state, a little black dot appears in my mind's eye. And it opens up, and out of it poured like 100 different masks. All different. And in a matter of seconds. And I'm thinking, I'm not an artist, you know. I've never done artwork. And here, all these masks come, and I know it doesn't come from my experience. Where is it coming from? So I go back and I tell Aggie about this, and he goes, good boy. And basically what he said was, you know, I tapped into the womb at the center of the universe. He said, this is where we get our information. Our ceremonies, our guidance, our direction comes from that place. And that put, when I got that, that put new meaning to the statement that all things are birthed of woman. All creativity and all creation. That I touched into what might be called the sacred feminine. And that was profound for me. Changed my life just to see that. And this is also why women were considered sacred. Now this is a very important point, especially today. Most people, most men and women, and even many spiritual leaders have forgotten why women were considered sacred. Because, like a hologram inside of their bodies, is the direct and exact sacred condition as the womb in the center of the universe that is physically manifested in their womb. Now, Western medicine would say, well, you know, we can take the egg and the sperm outside of the womb, and we can, you know, start life, but it can never grow into a human being. And the scientists can't understand why. Well, from a traditional way, we understand. There is a sacred vibrational field inside of the woman that we have forgotten to honor. That is the place of all the things born. That nothing new can be birthed without woman. And what women have done before time began was they would take that sacred vibration and move it outside in ceremonial space to create the womb on the outside vibrationally, so that something new can be birthed in this world. Okay? And we've forgotten that point. And it's really, really important now. The men, as we men, we have to be the new spiritual warriors, the one that protects the sacred space of women so they can do their work. Because if we're looking for change in this world, from a spiritual standpoint and from a physical standpoint, it will never happen until we restore that place, until we help women do that. Nothing new will be created. And so if we don't do it, we as a human species, I believe, we're done for.
So there's no person in the entire world that hasn't had some kind of soul trauma in their legacy, passed down from generation to generation until it's here with us today. There is a way out of this. And it's going to be led by women. This is a very serious responsibility. It was said in the stories that between 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, there began the great masculine imbalance. Prior to that time, this pendulum between masculine imbalance and feminine imbalance was going on since the beginning of time. And so the spiritual leader decided to hide the sacred teachings. And they knew that all things feminine were going to be smashed in horrific ways. High priestess cultures, goddess cultures, women, Mother Earth-based cultures, Mother Earth. We are still in this time of masculine imbalance. All things feminine are being desecrated in an unbelievable, sustained way. And you as women who are born from your mother, who has this lineage of pain and suffering that has gone for thousands of years, that is now energetically in your bodies, downloads into the fetus directly. You are inheriting the lineage of collective consciousness of women and the lineage of your own ancestry. You're born as a woman, and then you come into this world of great masculine imbalance and suffer your own life experience to add to that. And we're all complicit, men and women, in what has unfolded and what is continuing to unfold. Women now are being called to restore their own center of power. Because even with all of this violence that has been done to women for thousands of years, you still hold the sacredness within your body, in the womb. All things in our understanding of the ancient teachings comes from the womb at the center of the universe. And the identical womb is in every woman. That field of sacred power from the center of the universe, which has the power of creation and creativity, is in women. What we have forgotten during the masculine imbalance is that nothing new can be created without the sacred power of the feminine coming into the center of the outer world, starting from the inner world. Right? I've talked from a totally selfish standpoint. No matter what you do, I'm telling you, without restoring the sacred feminine, nothing new is going to occur in this world. Nothing. We can't think ourselves out of these problems. What happens in the traditional understanding of the sacred power of women is that women can take the vibration, the holy sacredness within their womb, when they work together in ceremony, and put that womb out here. So that a container is, sacred containers created in the ceremonial space for something new to be birthed.